That to me gives ultimate comfort. I do not like no wig sitting on my head and hurting me. Today we're jumping right into a glueless wig construction video. This is going to be very detailed. Everything that you need will be linked down below in the description. Let's get started. So you want to use the wig block that matches your client's circumference. So in this case, my client's circumference was 21.5 inches, so I use a 21.5 circumference block. Now, after I get my dome cap fitted on, I'm going to place my closure flat, like all around. You're going to use your T-pins, and you're going to make sure that closure is pulled tight against your block. Once you have your closure placed, you're going to go ahead and start at the front of the closure, and you're going to start your anchor stitching. So what I do is I blanket stitch all the way around the closure. If you don't know how to sew yet, I can do a video separately on specifically how to thread your needle and sew. But for this video, you should have some basic knowledge of wig making or sewing. So you're going to start with your 3 anchor stitches, and we're going to knot the third one off. And then you're going to sew halfway up one side of the closure. I am using 2 needles to do this. So you're going to do each side with a different needle. So I'm starting the right side with 1 needle. I'm going to go back to about the middle of the closure. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Here's the other side. I sewed back to where I had my pin. This is not the entire 5x5 length of the closure. Sewing in sections like this allows you to make sure that nothing is crooked or lopsided. Once you ensure that it's flat on both sides, you can go ahead and keep going around back to the back of the closure, okay? So out of the 5 inches on the sides, I probably sewed like 3 inches back, and then I finished out my other 2 inches, and then now we're checking the back of the closure to make sure that the back is sitting flat. You can see where I'm pointing out where the closure was not sitting flat, but we're gonna go ahead and take our pin and stretch that back out to where it's flat across the dome, and you guys can see that it's perfectly flush with the wig block. You're going to be adjusting your T-pins throughout the duration of sewing the closure down, just because as you see like a little wrinkle or a little bump, it needs to be adjusted as you're sewing, or that wrinkle and bump will stay there throughout the entire construction. So I'm finishing the first side that I started on. I'm sewing all the way through to where that pin is sitting, and I'm really using my thread to create tension, the tension that the pins would have created. So we're gonna zoom in here in just a second, and you're gonna notice that as soon as I took that pin out, I stitched the last anchor thread, and it's very flat and flush against the wig block, okay? So now we're moving towards the back of the closure, and this is the final stretch of sewing. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start on my left side, sew through to the middle where my pin is placed, and then we're doing the same thing on the other side until we reach the middle. Okay, so now you'll see me removing that last anchor pin because it's time for me to use my sewing skills to anchor that back down. I'm doing the right side of the rear of the closure, and making those threads meet in the middle. You'll see as I'm sewing down, there's going to be a little bit of slack, and I just went ahead and repin that so that it was super flat, and I continued sewing. Once my threads meet in the middle, I'm going to cut them both, tie them off, and then that is how you lay the closure. Okay, so next we're going to be mapping out how we're going to lay the tracks. So we're tying off the closure, cutting that down, and then we're going to grab a metallic marker so that it can be seen on the cap. So technically for a glueless unit, you do not need any other measurement outside of their circumference. But for my glueless units, this is just a pro tip, I do get the nape measurement. In this case, my client's natural nape went 5 inches across. So what I'll do is before I start sewing all the tracks together, I will sew that nape piece by itself, cut it off, and then go in and lay the tracks with my flipping method. And all that does is allow for more comfort with the way that the wig is sitting at the base of the nape. Your line should be up about 1 inch apart all the way up the dome cap till you meet the closure. The only thing I would change about these lines is instead of going straight across on top at the crown area, I would go in a U shape. But now we're just going to get these tracks laid. I do use a flip over method when I'm placing my tracks on my wigs. It just is way faster than clipping and restarting and things like that. So now we're just laying the tracks all the way up, following the lines. The lines are simply just guidelines. They don't have to be perfect. They just kind of help you go in a straight line. Let me just show y'all some basic construction. Okay, so this is what the closure looks like. This is my closure placement. You can see my stitches around there. Very neat little tight stitches, okay? And that's my closure placement. This is where I cut out the rest of that cap. This is what the closure looks like sitting in the front. You'll see these little spaces right here. These spaces are what really allows my closure wig to lay flat. And I really just use this dome cap to my advantage because I use the cap as like a means of like comfort or fortification. I hope that makes sense. So boom. Also, I'm gonna show you what I do with these little sides right here. I have some fabric glue that I will glue those together with. Here's my little tiny stitching. Nice neat rows, okay? The wig is very lightweight. All right, so I leave this part almost like a hat. So like when you're putting on one of my glueless wigs, there's like a ring around here. And when I put it on her, you'll be able to see. That to me gives ultimate comfort. I do not like no wig sitting on my head and hurting me. All right, I don't want no track rubbing against my ear. So I leave some band from the cap around, so it's like just like a comfy little hat on top of your head. Okay, anyway, I'll be able to show you that better after I style it. All right, so we're going back to the wig. You can see very neat construction. This is literally like her head. Boom, this will go right on top of her head. If this is where the closure is going to sit on the edge of her head, I don't want this any bumpier than it needs to be, so I'm going to actually go further away from the band. The band is already going to be something to like have combat with, basically. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring it back here, like towards the middle of where the closure is at. And then I'm going to zoom in for y'all. Okay, so yeah, when you're doing this, you want to just flip your unit inside out like this, okay? These are what make the unit glueless. I'm flipping the wig inside out. Now you can do this like down like this, or you can put this backwards on the mannequin head. All right, so I'm gonna sew that back here. It's still underneath the cap. You can sew through the closure if you would like, but just make sure you are doing nice little neat stitches. Once you finish sewing your clips in for your band, the wig is complete. Now you just need to style, and you're able to literally place this wig on like a hat. And here at this angle, you can really see how neat the construction of the wig is. A lot of people like worry that hand sewn wigs won't be sturdy enough, but I can absolutely assure you I've never made a hand sewn wig that did not last all the way. So now we get into the styling of the wig, and then I'm just going to show you guys what it looked like placed on my client's head. It was absolutely perfect. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more beauty tips and hacks, and I will see you in the next video.